I'm here with Scott. Scott's running the 11th annual Raise Platform Gathering. It's in San Francisco. It's linked right here at the beginning of the show. Go ahead and just go check out. It's going to be linked in the show notes, the Raise Global Summit. It's in San Francisco, October 19th. Scott, we just had such a great time talking about baseball. There's a lot of connections between sports and VC. For people who are trying to understand what Raise is, can you describe it just in a couple sentences? Like, what is this summit going on in San Francisco for GPs and LPs?
Sure. The first thing I'll do is I'll say thanks for having me on, Shane. This is awesome. I'll make one correction, right? So Raise Week, right? The thing we call Raise Week starts on the 19th, but our centerpiece, the Raise Global Summit, is on October 22nd. So, if you've never heard of this before, let me just give you a sense of a primer of what is Raise. So Raise was co-founded by Joanna Drake and Ben Black. Joanna is over at Magnify Ventures. Ben Black, co-founder of Acadian, right? I think it came together from them from the experience of being fund entrepreneurs, right? So both of them kind of came up at the same time. They're having the experience of raising funds, and the reality is that no one was talking about why is this hard, right? Like, and it is, right? It's difficult to raise a fund. It's difficult to launch a new firm. It's difficult to put a new logo on the map, right, in a meaningful way. So how do you pull together emerging venture capital managers, put them in a space and give them value? I think for a couple of years that kind of ran, to my understanding, as a bit of a gathering place and a place for people to kind of discuss and lick their wounds. Pretty quickly, I think what Joanna and Ben understood is that the most value you could give to this community of VC entrepreneurs was what they desperately need, which is the LP side of the equation. And so we're now in our 11th year. And what happens in San Francisco, at the end of this entire process, and we can talk about it, is 100 of some of the best emerging venture capital firms in the world connect with 330 of some of the best LPs actively deploying into venture. We put everyone together with chaos and goodwill, and what comes out of that is an amazing day where some of the best on the GP side are meeting some of the best on the LP side, and we're letting them do what they do best, which is connect, transact, and get capital flowing.
It's such a great overview, and I know it's going to be a really powerful week, not just a day. And I feel like a lot of this has just grown naturally over the years, and now you're sort of taking it to the next level here. It's really being elevated the last couple of years. So let's talk about the GPs. Let's say they are curious, they've never been to one of these before, they want to apply. Where should they go? And also, how can they have an amazing application to stand out?
It's a great question. So I'll preface by saying I spent 12 years of my career in venture doing capital formation, right? Hardcore fundraising, right? You know, I'll say, as someone who's been to like every version of an LP GP event there can be, if you are an emerging VC, if you're in market, not in market, thinking about raising fund one, kind of right on the edge of the precipice of launching, as someone who's like been in the trenches raising capital, this is something different, right? This is a very different experience, and it is extremely interesting. And it should be extremely interesting for you if you're a VC, looking to or actively raising capital. How this works is that every year we open up an application window, and we're currently in applications now, and they'll close midnight, or they'll close 11:59 p.m. Pacific time, June 1st, right? So applications are open now. What happens is last year, 940 GPs from around the world applied for Raise. At the same time that they're applying, and I'll talk about the application and how to make it really awesome, we've assembled about 80 of the best LPs in the sector, right? So these range from, family offices, fund to funds platforms, RIAs, wealth management, sovereign wealth funds, pensions, endowments, right? Like everywhere on the capital stack that you can imagine LPs, we've got them there. We've got LPs representing, capital with, DI, ESG filters. We've got people coming in from corporate platforms, right? Like across the board, the LPs that you want to get in front of, right? That top of the top sit on our selection committee. Once applications are done, that selection committee is then going to review every single application. It's about a 2 week process. About three members of the selection committee look at every single application. It is an intensive process. We're, wildly grateful for these LPs for giving us their time. And then what emerges from that is 100 selected funds, right? So this entire process produces what we call the raise select. So, this year there'll be 100 firms out of probably around 900 to 1,000 applications, and those are the ones who get to come to raise. So the only GPs who can come to raise are those who earn a ticket. It's not just about buying a ticket. How do you nail your raise application? The way that I would think about this is the most brutal version of the inbox, right? You are given the opportunity to present your deck, and then we give you a very long and very detailed application, an opportunity for you to lay out all the key facts about your fund. The way that I would think about this is that version of presenting yourself where it's not that short form, two-paragraph summary on what you're thinking. This is a long form opportunity to show an LP this is how we operate, this is our track record. We have a whole section for supplemental information. People get really creative in there, right? They'll include links to doc sends, their track record, background, whatever they want to do, whole thesis statements about individual subsectors that they're looking at. What I would say is if you haven't put it in your application, and it is critical for an LP who cannot talk to you, right? Will not be going back and forth with you by email saying, "Hey, where do I find this in the VDR? Hey, are you sure that your IRR marks there are correct?" Right? If it's not in the application, it doesn't exist. And so what I would say is really working it out, putting the pieces together, getting started early, and really thinking through the presentation of your firm is the best way to rise to the top.
In these applications, where do these go wrong? What are like the common pitfalls that people should like never do when they fill something out like this?
Make up your own metrics. Um,
For sure.
right? Right. So, it's cool that, when you're looking at your fund one, let's say you're like 2 years in, like you want to talk about like, adjusted car, year to date as, reference to a 2015 to 2020 view of vertical SaaS. That's really interesting. If I can't find, MOIC, TVPI, DPI just owned on a slide, that's a problem, right? It's amazing that you have a amazing team, right? What we do within the Raise application is instead of giving a single raw score, we break it down into six subcategories, right? So we're asking people, the LPs to judge the firm based upon do we think the thesis that they're presenting is differentiated and compelling? Then we say, do you think this thesis is a financial moneymaker, right? You can have a great idea. It can be really interesting what you want to do I think that this matches the market we're in and it would make me a lot of money, right? Give me great, top decile returns within my portfolio. Then we're going to ask, does the person have amazing personal achievement, right? What does their personal track record look like? On top of that, then we're going to ask, does that track record actually match to their strategy? So it's amazing that you were a Navy SEAL who's an ultra marathoner who graduated with a PhD in molecular biology from MIT. How does that relate to your fintech fund? Right? Like, how did that translate? It's amazing. You just came back from the International Space Station, right? You were given the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Why does that connect to a consumer marketplace driven AI, consumer marketplace driven, VC strategy, right? So like, what is your personal achievement? And then tying that in, like not leaving up to the imagination. How did this prepare me for this moment where I want to get married to LP Capital for 10 plus 2 and drive this forward and have this be the firm that I run, right? This is, who am I and how does this connect? They're going to look at your track record, right? So a place that people really fall down, what I would say, is if this is a first time fund, let's say you have a prior angel track record, or you're coming as an operator, or you're a spin out from a larger firm, right? Finding a way to put forward your track record in an easy to understand package. Let's say you've been doing angel investing for 10 years, run the MOIC on it, right? Run the numbers on it, try to figure out how you can package it, right? This is table stakes if you're raising a fund. If you were an operator and you're saying that part of your thesis is, converting your amazing experience being an exited founder into now being a VC, translate what that means from a track record perspective. And then the last, of course, is going to be the support you give your portfolio. So what I would say is that's a place where a lot of VCs don't think it through, right? We do this on a 1 to 10 scale. For context on portfolio support, if you say we make introductions and we serve on boards, that's a 5. We tell our committee members that's a 5, right? To get to a 10 on that score, you've got to be showing that you're doing something truly value add for your portfolio. You've assembled a network of CIOs from around the world who gather with you to review deals. You've got a sales pipeline that you're running from that for them. You're providing, real in-house accounting, finance, technical support for your founders, right? 10 means that you are offering something which changes the trajectory of your companies. But if what you say is I make introductions and I like to serve on boards and I've got great advice, we've told our LP selection committee that's a 5. So really thinking through your application, how do I address those 6 points? And then trying to up level your presentation, how you talk about yourself, so it all comes through really clearly and it's all stitched together.
It's like it sounds like a combination of having all your ducks in a row, but also being really clear what your edge is and how you're different. I think it's a great formula. It's a great combination you just laid out. And okay, so let's say best case scenario, the GP gets in, they're in the top 100, they arrive at the week, ready to go. What does a GP need to do once they get their boots on the ground to have a great week? What do they say? What do they ask? Do they just hang out and chill, or do they go meet as many people as they can? Like, do you have any recommendations for GPs?
Sure. I would say before they show up that day, here's all the stuff that's going to happen, right? Their application is going to get reviewed by leading LPs, which means that probably before they even get in the room, some of the LPs from the selection committee, because we're going to share the results with them early, are going to reach out to them and want to have meetings. So just by going through the process, by the way, win or lose, we've got stories of GPs that went through the process who didn't get selected, who still got a ticket out of members of the selection committee because these folk talk to each other. And when they see a firm they like, even if it didn't rise to the top 100, that's signal for them, right? Before they get there, if you're in the top 100, every single LP who is coming, 330 highly vetted LPs who are coming to raise, are going to have access to your profile, your fund marketing documents, right? Basically, your application now presented in a way to the general LP public. That's gated, right? That's all really private information that we take really seriously. And so every single LP who's coming will have had a chance to look through your fund, identify whether or not you're interesting. And before you get there, they're going to preset a desire to have a meeting with you. Last year, we set up before raise 320 pre-scheduled meetings on the day of raise. We have a whole wing of our venue that's just for one-on-one meetings. So that's 320 preset meetings. What I tell the GPs is if someone reaches out to you and says they want to have a meeting, take that meeting on Monday or Tuesday, right? Don't waste that spot at Raise if the LP is open to meeting with you earlier. You're going to get on the phone with them and have that initial call Zoom, right? Or that initial coffee with them before you get to Raise, right? As a GP, you're also going to get a list of all the attendees. Attack, right? Don't sit on the sidelines. This is where you become a salesperson, right? Reach out, find these people, right? Fill their inboxes, find a way to get to them, triangulate with friends. How do I get in front of Shane? Right? Do everything possible to get in front of the LPs you want. Build that list. Understand how they invest. Are you a potential fit for their mandate? And get in front of them. Then you'll come to raise, right? So all of this should happen before you even get to raise. Then the week of raise begins. Last year we had 20 side events that occurred throughout San Francisco. Show up to a bunch of them, host your own, team up with other GPs, right? Not everything has to be a solo story. Find 3 or 4 GPs, team up, do a network. For LPs, if they want to eat breakfast, brunch, lunch, whatever the fourth meal is, dinner, cocktails throughout the week, They can do that at all of the events that run throughout. And so you're going to attend a never-ending stream of events bouncing between multiple events to get in front of LPs. Oh yeah, now we get to the day of raise. So at the day of raise, you're going to arrive. You're going to have an amazing program lined up for you, right? So 24 of those GPs will be invited to speak from our main stage, but every
Wow.
single one of those GPs is going to be put into a tailored roundtable. So 2 to 3 GPs are going to sit down at a table with a trained moderator, and then LPs in advance of the event are going to pre-select the themes that they want to sit down and listen to. So for 45 minutes, you're going to sit down, and there'll be 3 different slots when you do this, right? So as a GP, you get your moment. And LPs will look at your fund, look at your fund marketing documents, understand your thesis, and say, I want to sit down and discuss Latam breakout VCs with 150 million or more of AUM. I want to talk to Fund One VCs who are focused on sports tech. I want to talk to Fund Two to Fund Four, right? We make it really tailored so the LPs can really choose their world at that table. You're going to sit down with, 7 to 10 LPs and have a conversation. It's not a pitch, it's a conversation. You're probably going to walk out of that roundtable with 3 to 4 hyper live leads, people that you want to go have that coffee with, follow up with, right? Then throughout the day, there's all these other facilitated networking opportunities where we're putting you up against it. The X factor is how do you do in a room with 330 LPs? And so there definitely is an aspect of this where you are on from morning until night, right? This is a chance to get in front of some amazing people, and then starts all the follow up from everyone you met, everyone you wish you had met, everyone you kind of connected with. So it's a big opportunity to put a lot of people in your pipeline.
Potentially life-changing opportunity. Okay, so before we get to the follow-up, one piece on you mentioned pitching versus conversation. Can you walk us through? You've walked and heard the conversations going on at these roundtables. You've seen the pitches. What is a at Raise? What is like a good conversation or strategy for a GP to take once they sit down with an LP who's a good fit? So they're not coming on across as transactional. They're coming across as like someone who's really passionate who can deliver results.
Sure. I think you want to, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if you're an LP who's at the event, there are 100 GPs fighting for your attention, right? Stories can get pretty muddied up in there, right? I think if you haven't managed to get on the phone with them, get on Zoom with them, have coffee with them before raise, and this is a completely fresh relationship, right? You're meeting someone for the first time. The most important thing you can do is be real, right? Just be honest, be authentic, make a personal relationship, right? They should understand your strategy, they should understand what you're working on, where you are in your story, where I am in my fundraise. But if that LP can't remember, oh yeah, I remember Scott, I liked talking to him. I don't have all the details, but I will happily take a follow-up call and get caught up. What they don't need is a printed version of your deck, right? No LP is going to walk around for the rest of the day carrying 30 printed, well packaged, Goldman approved, McKinsey approved decks with, spirals and pretty laminate, right? What they are going to remember is something for you. I've seen people do really creative things. I saw an AI fund create a glossary that goes in your back pocket branded with their fund. And if they had a good conversation, they would say, hey, AI is confusing. Take this little booklet. It's got a glossary of all the terms you should understand when you're talking about AI. Just drop it in your back pocket. Oh, that was awesome. Right. But I've also seen people, I always give the example of SC Moati at Mighty Capital. SC attacked Raise with a salesperson's approach. She was in people's LinkedIn's on their phones, triangulating, right? She used the full tool set, every arrow in her quiver to get herself in front of it. The other thing that I'll say is that for most GPs, they will have one, right? For most, they'll have at least one existing LP in the room, right? It's just how this works, right? We tend to have really great coverage in the LP base. Your LPs are your friends, right? In this moment, what you want to be able to do is get on the phone with an LP a week out, 2 weeks out from raise and say, here's my hit list. Here's the people I really want to get in front of. Can you make introductions for me in advance of raise? Or, and I've seen this happen throughout, I've seen GPs stand in one spot at raise and their LPs just run around, pull another LPs in to make introductions and allow that person to stay in one spot and hold court, right? So lean on your LPs. If you've got service providers, right? Right? Some of our sponsors, if you've got service providers who are sponsoring the event, they are your advocate too, right? So if you've got Stiefel or Sidecar or Carta, right? Reach out to them and say, here's my hit list of LPs. Do you have relationships with them? Can you help me get in front of them? Any advice, right? Your service providers, your LPs, they want to work for you that day and make sure that your story gets told. So attack it every way you possibly can.
I love it. There's no one silver bullet. It's a holistic approach. A great example as well of Mighty Capital. The raise is over now. You said follow up 3 or 4 times there. Tell us about champion like follow up for a GP and an LP.
Yeah, I mean, first off, we're going to champion you, right? We're gonna from now until next raise, we're gonna keep sharing that you were part of that raise select. We're gonna keep including your logo. Right now, I've got LinkedIn messages running promoting active applications with all the logos of all of the GPs who were selected last year. We're gonna continually work for you throughout the year just to help you get into community. We run monthly event series. We got all kinds of stuff going on. What it looks like is after raise, using that moment of momentum to do meticulous follow up. So, what I would say is if you are coming into the day of raise and you don't have your follow up emails written, you're probably doing it wrong, right? I met you. I wanted to meet you. Thanks for the long conversation. It was great getting cocktails with you. Man, impromptu dinner was awesome, right? Like, this shouldn't be something, right? You wouldn't accept this of your founders. If a founder said to you, I went to a conference, it was really awesome. I got 300 business cards, I got a list of attendees, and you said, oh, what awesome. What's your follow-up plan? You go, I'm going to work on it over the weekend, right? In this moment, you are selling, right? You're an entrepreneur, right? And so what I would do is I would begin to think through for yourself. This is how I do it. I'll give you an amazing example. Last year, someone figured out where our after party was, and then they branded the sidewalk with their logo from the place, the venue of the summit, all the way to the after party. So they printed their logo on the sidewalk in the Presidio. I'm pretty sure it like washed off with rain, right? These people printed their logo on the sidewalk to get some brand recognition. I love it. I love a hustler, right? So, you should be thinking to yourself, the day this ends, it's Friday. How are you in their inbox? How are you in their LinkedIn? How are you articulating follow up in a soft, human way so it reads as if you cared about them, right? Not just some like stock email that goes out to everyone, right? The worst is I get these too. Someone will scrape the attendee list and I'll get like the day after raise, I'll get like 16 emails that are like, it was awesome to spend time with you at Raise, and I'd love to follow up and figure out how we can. And it's like, no, we didn't meet at Raise. How come you don't know that I'm the guy producing it, right? Like, so care about it, think about it, but then you got a year, right? From that point forward, those LPs, right? Just go chasing, go hunting.
Yeah, and play the long game too. Play the long game,
Yeah,
but it got to
yeah.
keep moving your feet.
These are, yes, what I would say is these are relationships, right? You are planting seeds. Last year, I heard from a GP, he raised $16 million off the relationships he made at Raise last year, right? This was a Fund One GP who walked into Raise, made meaningful connections, structured his follow up, ran through it with professionalism, and he put $16 million into his final close, which is awesome, right? But you're also going to hear from people who said, I met someone at Raise, and 2 years later, they were the anchor of my third fund, right? So again, this is a chance to get in front of the right people. We've done a lot of work to curate the right people. And it's just your chance to build real human relationships that grow into something long term.
This has been a masterclass, Scott, in how to execute at Raise. The link to apply is closing June 1st, so make sure you submit your application as you're building your fund or getting ready to launch your fund. And Scott, I'll give you the last words. This has been so much gold, so much wisdom. I feel like a lot of these events, a lot of times GPs can put a lot of pressure on their shoulders. I have to have, X amount of conversations, get X amount of money raised. Do you have any last, one big piece of advice for GPs who might be feeling a little bit stressed about this?
Well, I'll give one last little plug. The day before the Global Summit, we're doing an event together with the NVCA and Venture Forward that we're calling our GP Day. It's a training day, right? So all of these questions, right? How do I raise money faster? How do I build a firm that's more resilient? How do I understand the LP side of the table so I'm a killer when it comes to those conversations? How do I build a VDR that actually delights and amazes institutional investors, right? So we're hosting a training day for 300 GPs the day before raise, right? That's going to be master classes, workshops, practicums on being a better firm builder and fundraiser. What I would say is right now the focus is how do you just nail your application? Put time into it, work through it. You've got until June 1st. We always see the stats of when people start their applications. Don't start the weekend before. Get started now. We send you automatic reminders to keep you on time, right? If you start your application today, you're going to start hearing from us. Hey, you've got this number of days left. Make sure to work on this, right? We coach you through it the best we can. But yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. I'm hoping that 1,000 GPs apply this year, and then I'm really excited to see the 100 who'll be invited to come to the Presidio in October.
This is incredible. This is much more than a summit or much more than an event. There's a training, there's a follow-up, you're coaching. I mean, this is way more in depth than I could have imagined. And I know people listening are going to super appreciate this, Scott. So thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks, Shane.